Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teenaccounts.
The following is a Red Apple Podcast Network presentation.
They say this is a big rich town. I just come from the poet's part. Bright light, city life, I gotta make it.
Welcome to Dominic Carter's podcast. This is Dominic Carter's City Hall. Now, here's Dominic Carter.
Red Apple Podcast Talk Radio 77 WABC. You can listen to me, Dominic Carter, weekdays 3 to 4 p.m. live Eastern Time, then back again live weeknights, midnight to 1 a.m. And don't forget Sundays, 11 p.m. until 1 a.m. Policing in America. You know it. I know it. Lord knows it's not easy. With me right now, a retired police officer that worked in the West Orange, New Jersey PD. His name is John Mancini, and he's also a businessman, a great one at that, in Nutley, New Jersey. This is my podcast. Let's go. John Mancini. So I spoke to you about 2 weeks ago, and people that listen to my show, they know that I love you, and I love you because of what you do for the community. You're always giving back, and you explained before why you do it. You were raised that way, you said, and so on. But before I get to you and politics, whatever you may want to talk about, tell me about Lisa. Lisa says to ask you about her massage-giving skills. Are they that phenomenal?
Pretty much, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, straight answer. My bones are shot. I've had 14 surgeries, so I'm hurting. My knee is really bad. When she works on my legs, I can actually walk normal.
Wow. 14 surgeries?
14. I had 2 fights with cancer, and I was doing canine work and went down a flight of stairs. So...
Oh, boy. Yeah, you told me about working with the canine unit, starting it, I think you said in West Orange.
Correct.
And what, the dog ran down the stairs or something? Or?
I actually was doing private work at the Empire State Building with another dog, and the dog caught me on the stairs. I wasn't ready for it. It pulled, and it just took me down the stairs.
Oh, boy. I'm really sorry to hear that. I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes. Okay, so Lisa's phenomenal, as I already know.
Absolutely, 100%.
So now you run a print shop. You're the owner, retired law enforcement, print shop, and then the oxygen bar here. And to run an oxygen bar is giving back to the community because you're trying to make people healthier, right? Why do you do it?
It's funny because it came about when I was in the hospital and my oxygen went low. So I came home, did research, and I kept seeing oxygen bars. Had no idea what it was. I asked my wife, and she goes, "You never heard of an oxygen bar?" And I said, "No." So I did a little research into it. I thought it was a nice fit, and there's nobody around. And I figured, let me give it a shot.
And here you are.
And here I am.
Wow. So you're retired law enforcement. I think it's disgusting what's happening around the country to law enforcement officers. Most recently, New York City, the officers hit with ice balls, large chunks of ice. When you see things like that, how does it make you feel?
It actually rips my gut out. If that isn't bad enough to have a mayor say it was just a snowball fight.
With kids.
With kids. A fight constitutes, it goes both ways. Can you imagine if the cops ever threw a snowball back, what would happen?
It would be live at 5, 24-hour live trucks outside the police station. It would be CCRB in New York demanding the officer's head. It would be $1 million lawsuit. It would be racism. It would go on and on and on.
So to have a mayor that, and this isn't the first time that he's taken the side of the criminal. The stabbing was another incident. So to sit there and say, it was just a snowball fight, and he saw the video, I'm not really sure what video he saw, because what I saw was a blatant attack on our officers.
Absolutely. You mentioned the stabbing. The man schizophrenic, and it's horrible. People
Absolutely.
have mental illness. But what's also horrible is those cops had no time to respond. They had just walked into the doorway, and this large man is charging towards them. A family member's trying to stop him, and he's got a butcher knife over his head. What are you supposed to do in a situation like that? And what does the mayor do? The mayor goes to visit him in the hospital. The cops have to go to the hospital. He doesn't visit the cops, and then he says there should be no charges against the man that started all of this. Do you think the blood of NYPD officers is also boiling over a situation like that?
100%, 100%. What you're going to find happening is right now they're sucking the life out of the job. The cops that want to work are going to be forced not to work, because your back's not going to be covered. You're going to be put in a situation, and even if you're right, you're wrong. So why would you lose your job on something like that? Nobody's going to be proactive anymore. 100%. They're just going to wait and get sent. It's not. It's the guys are just getting beaten. They're just getting beaten down, and that's the last thing you want. And the mayor just is not standing behind anybody. Look at how he's running the whole thing. New York is I don't think it's going to survive 3 years of him. I really don't think it'll survive.
3 years and 7 months. And then the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, charges this clown, wants him charged with assault. District Attorney Alvin Bragg says, nope, slap on the wrist, obstructing governmental operation and harassment. A slap in the face to every police officer in America, yes?
100%. I think he was just arrested, 3 weeks before for robbery?
Yes.
So he's not a Boy Scout.
Right, he's not.
So to say, why would you downplay that? Why would you reduce the charges on that? It is what it is. Call it what it is. But again, Alvin Bragg, not real friendly to the police. So this is what's going to happen, and you're going to see a mass exodus in New York, and to try and replace those guys they want to do social workers. Let me tell you, these calls go from 0 to 60 in about a second and a half. So you're not prepared for that. You don't have time to say, well, let me call somebody. It doesn't work that way.
I just want to talk politics with you for a minute or two, and then we'll wrap this up. President Trump has, this is my opinion, I want your opinion, has an opportunity to go down in history as the greatest president ever. How do you see the job he's doing?
Absolutely 100%. Now, can you just imagine the job he would do as if they would let him do his job? I mean, the Democrats have done nothing but fight him the whole way. How do you not stand up to say Americans first? How? All the questions he asked just proves that they're not behind it, and to them it's basically a political ploy. They're not looking to better America. Name me one thing they've come up with that's made anything any better. The only thing they do is fight Trump.
I can tell you one. They're the party of criminals.
Absolutely.
The party of illegals.
Can you imagine fighting that hard for us? Wouldn't that be nice? Isn't that what we put them in office for, to represent us?
To pay their salaries for.
And now there's I forget where it is, that they voted on a triple increase, 3 times the salary increase. Meanwhile, there's no cost of living raises for officers and the retirements. So how do you look at yourself in the morning with that?
John Mancini, retired law enforcement, West Orange, New Jersey. How did we get to this point where police around the country are so disrespected? And I mean, when in my day when I was growing up, in my community, many of us didn't have fathers, but we had a respect of the police, and you knew there's a certain line you don't cross, because if you cross that line, Houston, we got a problem. How did we get to this point?
I really think it was when pretty much Obama was in and Biden doubled down on it, that you weren't allowed to say anything. If you said anything that made common sense, you got called every name in a book. It's common sense. It's just common sense. There is no more common sense anymore. And it was a slow decay where everybody had to keep their mouth shut. And I think that just got to the point where it got abusive, and the job is not what it was. It's not what it was. You know what I mean? And it's not the officer's fault. It's not the officer's fault. They're in their trenches every day. They're caught between a rock and a hard place. You know, they're trying to do the right thing, and then they're getting beat down by the admin. So what do you want them to do? What's the answer for them to do? If you're going to tie their hands and they can't do their job, well, then you can't expect them to do their job.
Do you think we're going to continue to see the exodus of police officers leaving the NYPD, of police officers leaving large police departments across the country because of the horrible climate against officers?
Well, look at New York and look at Florida. Florida will give them a sign-on bonus, and they'll back them. Why would you stay in New York? All these big cities that are sanctuary cities where you can't do anything, why would you stay there? In Florida, Texas, they're all honoring law enforcement, give you sign-on bonus, to take care of you, good equipment, back you up. So, yeah, I don't see why guys would stay. I don't see why guys would stay. And the problem is, one guy leaves, you got to get 3 guys, 5 guys to go through the academy to take his place. You can't just hire one guy because the one guy might not survive. So you're probably looking at 5 or 3 to 1 as to whether you're really going to be able to replace that guy. And then you're looking months down the road, a year or 2 on the road by himself. You've lost 3-4 years already. So when a qualified seasoned guy leaves, you take a hard hit. You take a hard hit.
If you had to do law enforcement all over again as a career, would you do it?
Yeah, I still would.
You still would?
Yeah,
Why?
I still would. It really doesn't matter what other people say. It's what you feel, doing a good job, getting the bad guy, just doing it right, making it right. You can't replace that feeling. So no matter what you do, I would have never given it up, never.
You know what I find interesting, John? You are the nicest, mildest guy one could meet, but yet you carry, you're I don't know if you call it an off-duty weapon because you're retired. So I mean, but I just don't see you losing your cool under any situation.
It's funny. You have to kind of control your emotions, and the best thing to do instead of yelling and screaming is lower your voice, because that actually intimidates a little more, but it stops the screaming and the excitement of it, and you just you got to take it down a notch.
Wow. So you started the K9 unit in West Orange. Was there ever a time, I'm just curious, because those dogs, when they get worked up, they can get worked up. Was there ever, so the dog becomes your partner? Because I've seen officers, K9 cry like a baby when their dogs are retired. Was there ever a time that you worried that the dog might bite you?
No, I was never, ever. Maybe accidental in the midst of something, but never was I worried about that. Never.
And so they would attack on your command, and they would stop on your command?
Yes.
So if you said stop biting, whatever term you used, I know you said use another language, but if you said stop, the dog would stop biting at that point?
Yes. Yeah, he'll release.
Just like that?
Yep.
And they would never bite any other officers. How would they know that they recognize the uniform?
The biggest problem you have is not the dog doing something wrong. It's actually an officer doing something wrong. If you hear me yell a command that I'm going to release the dog, then you just stand still. You know what I mean? We also trained. We had a TAC unit. We also trained with our guys, so they knew what to expect. You know, so it's usually the guy's fault. Like if I'm standing there with my dog, you can't come up to me, shake my hand. My dog was not that kind of dog. So you just, hey, John, how you doing? Whatever. And just sit back. It's usually an officer's fault. Not to blame an officer. It's something that's interpreted by the dog differently than what it should have been. And
so what would happen if you have an undercover on location? What does the dog do?
Well, it depends on what the situation is. If there's 5 cops around and then one guy's running, well, he's going to go after the guy that's running. You also have to make sure the dog is focused on the target. You know what I mean? So that's it. If somebody's in a car, you know, and you want to extract out of a car, you bring him up close to the car, and then you release him 10, 15 feet out from there. So he knows, you have to focus the dog on the threat is what you have to do.
And they go on your command, period.
They're tough. They're tough. My dog was super hard. When I took him out of the car, everything stopped.
The bad guys open up a can of Act Right.
We had one guy was hiding in the woods, buried himself down. I bring the dog out, and he heard the dog barking, and he gave up before I even gave any commands. He said, I give up, and that was it. It stopped. A lot of times you don't need the dog there. Its presence alone is enough to intimidate and stop the problem. And that's what you're looking for: officer safety. You don't want any officers hurt. You don't want your canine hurt, but you don't want any officers hurt. When that dog comes out, you could sit there and point a gun at me, and I'm 99% convinced you're not going to shoot me. But when I have a dog snarling, spitting, and biting, you're going to have a hard time dealing with him.
John Mancini, thank you very much. Thank you for all that you do for others. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that is all the time we have for this edition, folks. Always remember, you can listen to me, Dominic Carter, weekdays 3 to 4 p.m. live. Back again live again weeknights, midnight to 1 a.m. On Sundays, 11 p.m. until 1 a.m. Red Apple Podcast, Talk Radio 77, WABC.
I gotta make it.
Dominic Carter socials on Twitter at Dominic TV and Facebook and Instagram. Dominic Carter TV. Email at dominic.carter@wabcradio.com. Until the next episode, be well. And as Dominic always says, stay positive. The glass is always half full, never half empty. Dominic Carter City Hall.